Let's go to our third and final question that we'll take for today, which is, how much wind does it take to damage a roof? That's a great question.
Yeah. There's a couple different answers here. One, it's going to depend on the type and style of shingle on your roof. So they have the original 3-tab shingles, which are just one-dimensional. They look like 3 of these next to each other here. The 3-tab shingles are typically 60 mile an hour wind rated, so not very good. And if you're on a 3-tab, they're 20, 25-year shingles, 60 mile an hour wind rated. The different brands have different sealants, so some of them do work a little better than others, but that's a base point for all of those. Now, you get into the dimensional shingles, which are your 3D architectural style shingles. You typically have between 110 and 130 mile an hour wind resistance. Now, what you got to remember, there are also updrafts, so it's not just the wind itself, but you can have a slower wind that's coming through, and then when it hits a home and shoots up, it actually increases the velocity of the winds, adding on 20, 30 miles an hour. So that's why it's kind of all over the place, where there's not just a set number. You have different styles. Like on the dimensional shingles, if you use 6 nails instead of 4, and if they have, like Owens Corning has a duration strip in them, like you can get 130 mile an hour out of them. Whereas by not installing them with 6 nails, it's only going to be 110. So there's a couple different things that go. But any time that you have a strong wind, it doesn't hurt to have it looked at. It's not just missing shingles. That's what everybody thinks. Like, hey, I don't have any missing shingles. Looks fine from the ground. It can also be creased shingles. They can be lifted, unsealed. There's a lot of different things that it can do. And then eventually when they're unsealed, because they've been blown up in the wind, it will reseal several times, but after it's unsealed and resealed, it'll stop sealing, and then it goes like this, and then eventually that's where the creasing, and then eventually it breaks off. So that's just the starting point to them coming off.
And that's why we're trying to educate you, so you can, hopefully see that. Do your own inspection from the ground, of course, and see those things. But just because you don't have missing shingles doesn't mean that there's not wind damage there, which is ultimately going to lead to wind damage, which when you start losing shingles, that is when water leaks will come in through the middle of a shingle, because half the shingle's gone.
The decking's exposed.
Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly.
There's so many times that I've seen, like, I went to a property, it's completely ripped off, it's worked its way through the underlayment. The decking below is almost rotted from being exposed because these shingles have been missing for so long. And I'm like, man, how has this been sitting? Because it must be months that this has been like this. So if you ever see anything like that, it's only going to cause more damage. It's not going to fix itself. Have somebody come out, mitigate the damage, tarp it, work with a carrier, whatever needs to happen, but get that fixed so you're not incurring more damage.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of this, ladies and gentlemen, is for you to be able to take your own observations, what's going on in your home, ultimately saving you money.
Right.
That's not to say that sometimes repairs, whether you try to do it yourself or whether you hire a handyman or a professional roofer or whatever the case might be, where there's not going to be some cost there, but it certainly beats the cost of an interior repair and new insulation in your attic and so on and so forth. So we want you to be able to identify those signs of potential damage to your home before they cause more extensive damage.
Yeah. Mold removal. Plus the safety to your family and yourself.
Yeah.
And then interior is just really expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive. So.
For sure. Awesome. Well, there you have it for today, folks. Thank you again so much for the questions that you are sending in. This is a lot of fun for us. We say it almost every time that we're on here that it is fun. We enjoy doing this. So send us more questions. We'd love to help you out here on Ask a Contractor.
Yeah, bring on the questions.